welcome back to The Unseen Journey. I'm your host, Guy, with my co-host, as always, Ashley. Hello, Ashley.
Hello,
and
hello.
We have a special guest today, and do us a favor, introduce yourself
I'm
very
Rinell,
briefly, please.
Rinell Ponce-Leon. I teach yoga. That's very brief.
Love it. I love it. For
love
those of you
it.
who don't know, when we were off camera, we were talking about her accent and how awesome it would be for Yoga Nidra. So if you're unfamiliar with Yoga Nidra or you're unfamiliar with ORW Foundation, do us a favor, reach down there, hit the like and subscribe button, then check out our website. So Yoga Nidra is, actually, why am I trying to explain this? We have a yoga expert on here. Rinell, can you explain to our audience what
I wanted
Yoga
to hear
Nidra
your
is, please?
Explanation.
My explanation?
I'm curious to
Right.
know, have you practiced?
Yeah, a little bit. So Yoga Nidra it's a script that someone who is trained in it will kind of walk you through. And the best way I can describe it for me is it's a lot about getting away from all of this out here from my day, right? Everything that was going on, all the distractions, life, and pulling my thoughts and everything back to here, so that as I'm trying to like slow down and calm down to go to sleep, I can really just kind of like get into that sort of that rest and digest mode, that just I'm here, I'm back at peace. I'm not, the what did I need to buy at the grocery store tomorrow, and what do the kids have going on? For me, that's kind of where I've understood and how I kind of take in value when I've listened to scripts for Yoga Nidra.
You did very well.
How'd I do?
Very well. So Yoga Nidra is a guided meditation. Nidra means sleep. So it's a meditation where your mind is in between wakefulness and sleeping. So the script will take you through 7 different parts, bringing you to body awareness, visualization, and different things in X amount of time. You follow a script, and we normally do it before bedtime at the retreats, but you can do it at any time. It will give you that boost of energy after after you practice the Yoga Nidra. So what we'd recommend is that after you practice at the retreat, we send people straight to bed, because if you don't, that very deep rest that you got from the practice will give you a boost of energy, and you don't want that because you want to go to sleep. So we send them straight to bed. And I had one participant, I think, this past retreat 2 weeks ago, that he didn't go to sleep immediately, and then he was up until 3 o'clock in the morning. So the next day he's like, I'm going to listen and I'm going to go straight to bed.
Interesting. And see, there's so many, we talk a lot about layers in our last podcast, and there's so many layers to yoga. And so I have to ask, there's so many layers too, if I can, Rinell, share a little bit of your bio, because I kind of want to get into these layers of yoga and everything that is encapsulated in it. So Rinell, you are a shapeologist and an avid practitioner in the art of yoga, the ancient tradition from which you draw the concepts that influence and define your lifestyle. You found healing and balance in the practice, and you first obtained your yoga certification and for trauma recovery in 2022. So just last year, and you found your way to Operation Red Wings Foundation, which we're so excited about. You also do Krav Maga and to a selective private clientele. So that's really exciting, Guy. I know you want to jump into that. And you've lived pretty much in different parts of the world: New York, London, Paris. So tell us about yourself and your background in yoga, and especially how it led to working with veterans.
About the certifications, I have 500 hours of yoga teacher training, and then 200 with the Veterans Yoga Project with trauma-informed yoga. So it's about 700 hours of yoga. I was self-taught.
It's incredible.
I started doing yoga in 2013 back in England, and that's a way to cope with very difficult circumstances in my life at that time. And the only thing that intuitively allowed me to live my day-to-day life was the practices of yoga. So I started just with 15 minutes a day. And I used to get frustrated because I wanted to do everything perfectly and I couldn't. And I had a book and I did it through the book. And then I got some videos and then I got an application and I started doing it every single day. And I could see my progress within a couple of days. But I did it every single day. And from there, I started to increase the time I did it. And at the time, as I said, I was going through a very difficult time at home, and I couldn't practice yoga at normal hours because it was a trigger for the person I was living with. So, or I don't know, I mean, it was like, why are you doing that right now? So I did it very early in the morning before the children and everybody else was asleep, we're up, and then very late at night. So depending on the day. And I did it basically hiding for many years. Fast forward many years, we moved to the Caribbean and I kept doing my practices like hidden from people. And at this point I was advanced in my practice. I found teachers who taught me meditation, breath work, and I participated in very different modalities and I started learning. And I ended up fleeing my home with my 3 children and my dog. Then a friend of mine came to visit to help out with the situation. And one morning I was still hiding, went out to the beach. I didn't even use mats or anything like that. It was my practice and myself, I think. Somebody gifted me a mat and my dog tear it to bits in England. So it was like, the only thing that was left was about that big. And I thought, that'll do. So that'll do. It doesn't matter. I mean, for me, it wasn't important. And so I went out and my friend took a video and posted it on Facebook and I was horrified. And at that point, people were like, oh my God, you do that. And they were like, so and I thought, maybe this is a way for me to heal from hiding. And it was like, I was stripped naked walking in the middle of the road, when she didn't mean anything bad with it. She didn't even know. It was just a shock. So I kind of started to post something, and another friend of mine told me, oh, you should get certified a couple of years later. So from the Virgin Islands, I moved to New York. From New York, I put everybody in a car and started driving to Houston without knowing what we was going to do, where was going to go, nothing, just 3 kids, a whole bunch of stuff that we collected along the way, and my dog. And away we went, and here I am. So I got, this friend told me, why don't you get certified? I called somebody, and a long story short, I did. I got my first 200 hours with him, and then is Lex Gillen from the Institute, Yoga Institute, Houston Yoga Institute. He's 70. I think he's 76 this year. He trained with Ram Dass. He's an incredible man. He is an incredible man, an incredible inspiration to all of us. And we clicked, and we went, Rinell, come and help. So I go and help at his certifications every now and then. And he got a phone call from Morgan, from ORW, and he came out at lunchtime one day. I was just happened to be there. I think I was finishing my 400 hours actually with him. He comes out and he says, "Oh, you need to call this person. They need a yoga teacher, and I think you'll be good for that." So I called her that same day, called Morgan, and she said, I fell in love with what she was telling me, that what the retreat was about. And I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is like my journey that I will get to share with people. And that was it. I was fascinated by it ever since. Then I went and I shadowed somebody, and that somebody didn't turn up. So they sent a person, one of the directors from the Veterans Yoga Project, which was my luck. It was so amazing. And then I did the certification with the Veterans Yoga Project right after that. And I have been at the retreat ever since, every single month.
There's so many pieces in there, right? We talk about unseen elements and unseen journey. There's the unseen element of just the sheer, I'm going to say, strength that it takes to not just like move, right? However, you're talking like you're moving countries, right? Like,
with 3 kids,
like England, Caribbean, like back over to America. I mean, even if we talk about the move from New York to Houston, Texas, that's
a lot.
The majority of the way across Europe, right? Like that's a big move. And so there's that strength aspect in there. And then I want to, oh man. So that's like one of your unseen elements in there, because it's interesting. Because it's like, on the one hand, you have all this, like, you had all this external strength, right? To be able to move, like we're bouncing countries, we're moving huge state to state. And on the other hand, this thing you love, this thing that like shines the light in your life, you're having to hide, right? Because apparently it was, as you said, it was a trigger for your partner, your spouse at the time. And so those two are like over here, right? They're like polar opposites. And I find it really interesting because Ashley and I have had this conversation before, which is that idea of like, there's personal me and then there's professional me, right? And Ashley, we had a great conversation one time because on the podcast, on a previous episode, she had gotten nervous that she had said something professionally that might upset people. And I was like, no, what you said was great. What you said was human, and it was your feelings, and it was your expression of those feelings. And it's okay if some people get it, if some people don't get it, if some people agree with it, if some people disagree with it. Like those are all okay, right? Yeah.
Amen.
So before we go super deep in here, I want to just go back because there was a piece that my brain latched onto, which was this idea of, you said you had a yoga mat, dog tore it up. So then you were like on the beach practicing without a yoga mat, right? And what I think about, what I hear is this idea of just like your feet, like my visual is your feet being able to just dig into the sand and have that connection with the earth and like allowing you to really get to that, like that center, that grounding, because as you said, that was kind of like, it was your practice. It was your moment. So like, what are your thoughts or what were your feelings and everything going on with just your practicing yoga, like on the beach, no mat? Like, I'm assuming I'm going to jump out there. Like, were you not wearing shoes? Were you like digging, like just being connected to the earth? Like, what was that kind of like?
Practicing yoga on the beach, if it's a sandy beach, which the Caribbean is pretty sandy, I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's very challenging because you're sinking in all the time, and depending on what you're doing, unless you're just sitting down, is readjusting is really hard, and it's hard on your balance. But I feel that was part of my journey. So my friends call me. I mean, so I do a demo. I demo for my friends' classes in a public park in Houston, and I always dressed in black. And I do all these moves. So I demo for 150 people that attend the classes, and my friends call me Yoga Ninja. And it's because, I mean,
Nice.
you really need the moves, and practicing on sand is incredibly challenging. But my practice has been always very challenging. I push myself to the limit and I worked this out years later, is the familiar painful feeling from your trauma or your experiences in a healthy way. So, that pain, I mean, you feel it's a challenge to do a lot of the yoga poses, and I always kept pushing.
Amen
And
to
I
that.
always kept pushing and pushing, and to this day I still do. What I tell my students, there is always a step forward, a step up. No matter how advanced you are, there is always a way to step it up. And that was one of the things. I mean, I was grounded in the sense of grounding, and at the same time, while you're grounding, it's very, very challenging to sustain the poses. It was, to me, was incredibly therapeutic.
I love that. Well, and that it's a practice, right? Like we talk about putting our training into practice, and I love that concept that even the biggest experts in yoga still have.
I mean, it's called
that
a
step
yoga
up, that
practice.
work that can be done with their poses.
It's not called any other thing. It is a practice. It's something you practice, you do every day if you can. I mean, I do it. All these years, I still do it every day. I seldom miss a day.
And what an interesting thought. And Ashley, I want to catch some of your thoughts on this and that idea of, right, trauma, painful, taking that energy, transferring that energy over into yoga. Yoga practice isn't necessarily easy or pain-free for a lot of people, but it's almost that it's that energy transfer, right? Like you took a negative pain and you transferred it into a positive, healthy pain. I think that's kind of cool. Like, I think that's a pretty neat perspective and insight on how you saw your trauma shifting over into your yoga practice. Like, Ashley, what are your thoughts on kind of that idea of using our trauma, our pain energy, and transferring that into some sort of external or healthy energy?
Well, I love that because I actually wrote that down in my notes for the unseen elements, because I put how trauma can sometimes lead us to our purpose. And we don't know that at the time. I mean, while we're in our traumatic experience, I'm sure hearing your story, Rinell, you had no clue that, you were in your fight or flight, and you were definitely fighting for your kiddos, fighting for yourself, and getting out of there and not realizing where it would lead you. But then all of that trauma led to your yearning, it sounds like, for peace and calm. And that is such a powerful thing. I know for me, with my traumatic experiences of I wouldn't be in my purpose right now if it weren't for my traumas that I experienced. So
exactly,
absolutely, I think there's a yin and yang concept there.
Yeah. And for our audience members who did not catch the episode where Ashley talked about her purpose and what she does now, do us a favor, reach down there, hit the like, subscribe, back up, catch some other episodes, and you can find out exactly what, there's, see that, I'm throwing that hook out there. You can find out what Ashley's purpose is, right? Yeah. So, and you've come full circle, right? You've gone from trauma, transfer energy to practice, now transfer energy to instructing at ORW Foundation retreats, instructing in private practice. Wow, tell us a little bit about, I want to hear more about kind of the feelings. Like, we've heard a lot about the journey, some of the thoughts. I want to hear more about the thoughts and the feelings of what it was like when you started leading these practices, either with ORW Foundation or through private
that's
practice.
interesting. A parenthesis right here. I would like to make clear, I don't have 3 kids. I have 4 with the same person. but I took three with me, and
Oh,
my eldest stayed behind, and I
wow.
didn't tell you that.
Okay.
That's part of the whole hard situation we're living. Um, so
Thank you for
that is
sharing
a
that, because
whole that is
that
a whole
adds a
nother
whole nother
level,
level.
like
Not only three
more.
kiddos,
Yes, it's like
four.
deeper than it looks, but yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to be teaching,
Yes.
and you're right about that, is never in a million years would have thought that I would be serving others with my trauma and my experience. Never. I just hung on for dear life to the practices, and I was walking the practices, and was very privileged to have an incredible teacher back in England, which I kept it quiet for quite some years. And it is a fine line between talking or quoting the quote and living it and walking the path. Because of what you read on the books, it's very beautiful and very simple to, oh, this sounds good, love and flowery, but when you actually have to use it and put it into practice, that's when the real challenge and the real practice of yoga comes to be. And I started teaching, and I was terrified. My first classes, I wouldn't even want, when I graduated from my certification, I taught the class, and it was a horrible experience to me. And I thought I did horrendous, and it was blah, 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 and everybody was like, oh my God, that was a great practice. And it took me quite some time to come to terms with, oh, I actually can offer something, because for many years I was trained to totally the opposite. So it was very difficult. And to this day, I still feel very nervous every time I step on the mat. To teach people, because I feel it's a great responsibility that you have to guide people through a journey. And with ORW, every time I make that drive up north, I feel butterflies in my stomach. Nearly 2 years down the road, and I drive in silence for an hour and a half, 40 minutes. I don't take calls. I don't play music, nothing, until I get there. And it's kind of my ritual, kind of preparing to be able to give anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
So the first classes with the foundation were quite challenging personally, because there are a lot of similarities in the lives, even though the trauma is different. Trauma is one thing, no matter where it comes from.
Amen, Rinell. We talk about that definitely a
So,
lot. Trauma is
it's
trauma.
been a beautiful journey with the organization, with the foundation. It's incredible every time I read the feedbacks, and you go like, wow, I think I'm making a difference in somebody's life. That has no price. That really, I mean, you have to experience that to understand that is priceless.
I agree, Guy. I mean, I feel like I can just say I know you agree with me too, because we're both in love with the Operation Red Wings Foundation retreat process. And I've yet to meet a yogi who's not amazing to experience. And Rinell, you're right up there with all the other yogis that I know. This is my first time meeting you, and you just have this calming presence. And so many of the other yogis have this amazing, it's just something about, it must be something about that yoga certification. It just, you have, and I've also heard this from another yogi, that you don't go out looking for yoga, like yoga finds you. And I think that's so powerful, because it's just part of that healing process. Like it finds your way to you. And something with Operation Red Wings Foundation retreats if you're interested in learning about Out There Podcast Land, like come through, because that's what's so powerful is see that like and subscribe. And because we get to experience all these different therapeutic approaches that can help us on our healing journey. And I wanted to ask you, Rinell, like, how do you see yoga and the yoga practices? Because it's more than one offering. We have our, the standard yoga, and if you could talk a little bit about like what a day in a life of the retreat looks like how there's the different yoga sessions, and how do you see it complementing the different therapeutic approaches that the participants experience at a retreat?
We yogis at the retreat have the most classes per day. So yes, it's we have
that 6:30 wake up.
Six classes a day. We start at 6:30 in the morning, and with half an hour practice. And it's not mandatory, so whoever wants to participate in that one. Every yogi teaches their own practice. We teach different modalities. So what I teach, I do a restorative class in the morning, which is only on the floor. It's very gentle, with long holds. You stay on the poses for some time. It's not a quick flow. Then the morning practices, the first days I start with breathing practices, because breath work is the backbone of the yoga practices. Without the breath work, you don't stand a chance to do anything. So I do a very comprehensive breath work class. Then we also teach the yogis class with the alpha stim machine, and that is amazing.
Nice.
What I always tell the practitioners, the participants, is that alpha stim is the highway to the meditative state. So you are able to get there with meditation, but with the machine, you're there within as soon as you turn it on, and it works wonders. Then we do a practice in the evening at around 5 o'clock, and that is a whole hour. That is a whole full practice. In that practice, I incorporate the breath work. I do a short meditation, and then we move from the floor up and then down again. And we end the day with Yoga Nidra. Right before bedtime. It's 20 minutes. Mine is 22 minutes. 22 minutes long. And after that is everybody to bed. That's roughly how our days go. And then as the days progress, we have different modalities. We do meditation in the mornings and breath work and movement at different times. But that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting that you say, right, like the morning offering is optional. I scratched the word optional. Sorry, Morgan. I scratched the word optional off. And here's why, right? So I've been a team leader now with ORW Foundation. I'm in my 4th year. I can tell you, like, without a shadow of a doubt, there is a difference in the individuals who go to yoga in the morning, then show up and have breakfast, and then we go to large group. Where they're at in time and space with their mental awareness, their energy, their openness is way up here. And in all the retreats I ever did where I left the word optional in there, and, like maybe day 1, you'd get some people, and then day 2, you got like, it's down to like a person, and then that person starts to feel bad. And then all of a sudden, like no one's showing up. So when they're not going to yoga in the morning, it's like they may or may not make breakfast. They may or may not really eat anything for breakfast. And then when they're in large group session in the morning, they're not on yet. So if they've done I'm telling you, I scratch off the word optional. If they've done the non-optional yoga, they're up here for large group. They're ready. They're open.
Eating their breakfast.
Yeah. If they haven't done yoga, they're like down here. Sorry, I'm trying to but I want it way down here. I'm not focusing on Star Wars.
They're still
right? We're not talking about Star Wars right now, but it's like this, right? And it's because it's all those things that you were talking about with yoga, right? It's that idea of moving energy, right? We've gone from sleeping, whether we had good or bad sleep, right? Because we get all the above. We've had a sleep expert on here before. So if you all want to hear more about sleep, jump back to that podcast episode. And it's all about that energy coming out of sleep. And now I've got to start getting that energy moving, right? I've got to get that energy to a certain level. And it's interesting that you say you still get nervous going to a retreat, because that's also energy. All the participants, I've never have I ever met a participant who wasn't nervous about showing up to a retreat. They've all been, to include myself, when I went through, right? We don't know what to expect. We don't know what the other people are coming in with or what they're going to be like. And so we have that energy. And it's interesting to hear you say that you still get nervous on your way to retreats. You still get nervous leading these practices. And yet the work you're doing with the energy you're doing is all about getting it all calm and centered. And I'm gonna use a slightly different word than one we've thrown out there before, because the word I love to use is harmony, right? We can have energy, we can have elements in our lives that are in harmony, and that means they're all working together. A lot of times you hear individuals talk about balance, right? Well, balance, one side has to give for the other side to gain, and there's a constant tension. There's a friction there, right? In balance. Harmony, we're all just working together. There's no friction. There's no tension. There's no discourse there, right? I'm kind of curious though, Ashley, I'm coming your direction, because, Rinell talked about this idea of moving from trauma, that energy, her experiences, into shaping her practice into now ORW Foundation, working with individuals. And you've had kind of a similar journey with your trauma. Do you still feel that nervousness and that type of energy when you're doing the work you're doing with suicide prevention?
Oh, 100%. And then it's also, there's that pressure to perform, right? Because there's that expectation there to, you've been on this journey, you've accomplished, whatever. And then now the show's on. Yeah. Now you got to perform. So I do have this thing that I secretly love, cancellations. Because I'm woo, I don't got to do it now. But I want to, so there's that balance of, I want to go and help and use all this knowledge and experience that I've gained. But then there's a lot of pressure, and it builds anxiety to be now I got to perform and help impact people. But and then there's a little bit of that imposter thing. Can I impact people?
Yes,
how?
And there's a lot of that. You show class. It's are they? I mean, am I offering something? Are they getting anything out of this? Yeah, but the interesting thing about the morning yoga is, for the past, I think, 4 male retreats that I have done, I have had full participation in the morning yoga. Nice. Even on Sunday, which I lose my entire audience by Sunday morning. People are knackered. They are so knackered that they can't wake up at that time and take the yoga class. But for the past few retreats, it's been incredible. So what I do, a trick I do, I just tell them, just come. If you don't feel like doing anything, don't do it. Just show up and sit on the mat. And guess what happened? They end up moving. Just be there. But they have the freedom not to. Nice. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do it, because you don't have to. But now that you're here, why don't you try, lifting your arm up or doing something? But I give them that freedom just to come and sit down and just watch us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. And you feel better afterwards. Yeah. Guess what? The side effect.
We got to catch something, though. We got to catch something, because both of you were sort of hinting around it. And so I want to phrase it this way, right? That question of, am I enough? Am I good enough? Right? Because there's the question. Those nerves coming from, do I have something to offer? I really want people to show up. I really don't want people to show up, right? Am I going to be good enough? Is this going to be good enough? Is someone going to get something out of this? It really all falls back to that question of, am I enough? Right? Am I enough that people want to show up and that people want to participate? And Rinell, what you just said is beautiful, because, you know, where you're doing them as optional, and you're clearly enough and good enough because people are choosing to wake up and show up at 6:30 a.m. And participate, right? And Ashley, I'm telling you right now, I know you're good enough, and I know you're enough for all your suicide prevention classes. That's one of those powerful unseen questions / weights, right? That's a self-placed weight that we put on ourselves, right? Am I enough? Am I good enough?
Yeah.
And then to see kind of that shift in perspective, because Rinell, you mentioned this earlier, you have such a question mark on that question. And then you get the feedback forms and you're like, okay, yeah, I am, right?
And it does feel great. It does, you know, another one of those secret things. It secretly feels great when you can accomplish this and see the change. And it's so great when we have found our purpose. And Guy, I see this in you, because just having Rinell here and her calming presence, you are so calm this episode. I'm like, who are you, Guy? I love it. We're just like, we're all in the zen.
Yeah.
We're just like feeling it. And so, Rinell, a question I have, because I skipped this in your bio, but I didn't want to miss this, is I see you started, you're the founder of Healing Wings for Warriors,
Nice.
a nonprofit. And so I want to ask you, looking ahead, what are your future goals and aspirations in terms of working with veterans and yoga? And tell us about that Healing Wings for Warriors.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Obviously, I'm not a veteran. So, and it's very interesting, because out of the staff here in Texas, all of the yogis, everybody is a veteran except for me. And they have kept me all this time. As I said, it's going to come up to 2 years at the beginning of next year. Me working with them, and they even gave me my own coin. That organization came about because of Operation Red Wing Foundation. So after the retreats, the guys and ladies used to reach out, so asking questions, what can I do? Oh, I love your practices. Rinell, you know, it all came about like, okay, what's next? So they do these retreats, they feel great, they get a lot from it. We give them a lot of resources. They go back home. I know from my own experience that yoga is a practice, it's a lifestyle. And for those who want to change their life, they have to do the practices as a lifestyle. It's something that you have to do until the day you are no longer in this earth plane. So for that reason, I decided to create this organization to provide what little I know in the regular basis. So they have a place to go and practice every week. And that's how I, founded Healing Weeks for Warriors. And I'm giving them wings to heal themselves.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's so cool.
To fly free, to free yourself.
To fly
See
that's what where we go.
Are designed for, just to fly and feel free and do what you want. So, I encourage people to come to class, do the practices, but I encouraged them to take him home.
Mm-hmm.
I never went to a yoga class until I got, and this is a secret. I never took, so I never
We
took
love
a yoga
unseen
class
secrets here.
until I went to get certified, and I was petrified because I was self-taught. Everything I read in yoga literature was that the path is a lonely path. It's where you found yourself, and my life was very, very lonely at the time.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, so for me, stepping into a yoga studio wasn't even a thing. It didn't even occur to me that I could go and do that. So when my teacher asked me, so where do you practice? And I'm looking around, I was like, what kind of question is that? Where do you practice? I mean, wherever. I practice at home. I mean, at the beach, outside, where, it's like, is that a thing? I mean, where do you?
It found you.
So and
Yoga
then
found you
I realized,
wherever you were.
yeah, I haven't taken a single class, and he didn't. He at this point hadn't seen me practicing. So right after he taught a class, and he's like, oh, wait a minute, you didn't take a class ever? I had the advantage that I was a dancer, so I knew and I understood, and I still understand my body. But the majority of people, especially with trauma, we are disconnected with our bodies. And I notice who has a deeper trauma when you tell them, bring your right hand on top of your right leg, and they cannot find the leg or the hand. You might think that, oh, that's impossible. It happens. It happens a lot. So yes, I mean, my journey is a lonely journey, but it doesn't have to be that way. And that's why this organization is to provide support, to provide a safe space, and to share what healed me, because I wasn't like that. I wasn't Zen like this before. And I know it's possible. It is possible to heal through the practices. And I just want to inspire people, if you put a little spark, and that will grow into a full fire.
Okay, I gotta add something now. So, and then I have a question. Then I have a follow-up question. So here's what I gotta add. So the wings are there to allow you to fly free, right? From the burdens, right? That negative energy. I need you and Ashley to both wear your own wings, right? Can't just give away wings. You also got to wear them. And then and then my
Fair.
And then my question is, because if I don't ask this question, I'm sure like the comments are going to explode. Like, Guy, you're a combat veteran. How could you not ask about Krav Maga, right? So I got to ask, right? Because if we go way back, right? You got the most feared warriors in history, right? Samurai, and they're like on the battlefield, like, right? And then all of a sudden at home, they're like doing origami and they're writing poetry, and you're doing yoga. And so how did you, because there's such a juxtaposition. There's such opposites of each other, right? And for those of you not familiar with Krav is a very close quarters fighting style. It is designed to quickly disarm or get your opponent to disengage from combat. And it was, I believe it's Israeli, if I'm not mistaken, in origins. But it is a very it's not karate. It's not your nice martial art, right? It's very close. So I just want to hear this, right? I want to hear this. Like, what was that journey like? Because right now I'm like, I got to pull the movie title. Ashley, help me out. What was that movie where the wife, like the ex-wife, right, like learns like the martial arts, and then she like goes and faces the husband. She's like,
Oh, with
Yes!
J-Lo. I think it's called
Yes!
Enough, actually.
Yes, that like popped into my brain. I'm like, Oh, I wonder. So, okay, sorry. So,
She's determined. Peppermint is like that too, though.
Nice.
Peppermint with Jennifer
oh
Garner.
yeah, there you go.
So-
All right, so Rinell,
It's women on a mission.
there you go. I love
Can't
it.
hold
I
us
love
back.
it. Well, my daughter, did I tell you? I don't know if I told you all this story. I'm going to share the story real quick. So my daughter, my daughter's 12. She's in 6th grade. So one of the boys in her math class decided to like throw his crock across the room, like no regard for anyone else. And it smacks my daughter in the face, right? And my daughter gets the crock and scoops it up and identifies the boy, right? Because he's got one shoe on. And teacher's like, do you want to report him? Do you want to send him to the principal's office? And my daughter's like, no, I got it. So post class, what does my daughter do? My daughter goes and grabs him, slams him into the wall locker, takes his crock and goes, here's your crock back, and whacks him in the head with his crock and then hands it to him and says, don't you ever throw your crock again, and don't you ever hit me again. And the kid's like, okay, right? And she like walks away, and I'm like, yeah, that's my daughter. Let's go.
Oh,
Sorry.
wow,
Anyways,
well
okay.
done.
So Rinell, we got Cobb and we got yoga. What's up here? Let's hear it.
I mean, this is probably the best time to tell you that yoga was created by men, for warriors, 5,000 years ago. It was only for men and by enlightened men to enlighten you as a man. So it was just recently that it came to the West by a woman, and that was a Hollywood star that went to India and took classes and convinced the guru, who was not happy with the idea of teaching a woman. And then she brought him here. But and it was for warriors.
Oh, interesting.
So you need, and you know, if you're a combat veteran, you know that you need your mind in place to be able to go to combat. So the Krav Maga, after leaving one child behind, by now you gather that it was a terrible relationship I had, and very, abusive, and it was very psychological, and they chipped away your personality, basically. And I moved to New York, and things didn't work out there. Came here, was alone with 3 kids. My dog is he's fierce, but looks fierce. He's just a big baby. I felt like I needed something. It was more of a personal, like, to kind of feel safe in my own skin more than, going out beating up people. So I looked at different modalities, so I wanted to do self-defense. And then the Krav Maga popped up in my feed one day in social media, and it was close to where I lived. And I was like, I'm going to check it out. And they sent them a message, they called me, and I went to check it out. And I did a class, and I fell in love with the whole thing. I didn't like the idea that the whole class, you are in very close contact with people. So, people actually choking you and sitting on top of you and all those thoughts, but those things. So I didn't say anything, that I felt so uncomfortable with all of it, but I found it fascinating. And me being so little, I have everything here low, so to disguise the fact that I am only 5 foot tall in a good day. So being so small and so little, I thought, this is what I need to do to boost my confidence, basically. I didn't know that it was so lethal. So, we I mean, literally. So when they first tell you, the best thing is don't fight, because if you do, you have to break them. So I also do, it's going to blow your mind, I guess, because every time it does, I do Qigong Kung Fu as well. So it's not fighting, it's just the form.
Nice. But it could be.
The master always says that the fight you win is a fight you don't have to fight. So translate into Krav Maga,
I love that.
You use your feet as your best defense weapon, which you use them to walk out, to walk away. So when you don't have the privilege to walk away, you have to break them. So, and I know, I'm training for that. And after training, I told them that I do yoga, and they said, perfect, come and teach the class, and we come teach yoga. So I've been doing that for, I think, 2-3 years now. Teaching yoga, Krav Maga, and it's great because I get to beat
so
them
cool.
up only with yoga without touching them or anything. They're like, oh my God, Rinell, you're killing us. So I teach a very strong practice. Yeah, I teach a strong practice there.
Pushing people to their
Yes.
limits and
Yeah.
healing.
I love it.
So that's how Krav Maga
I
came
love
about. And it's all the yin and yang,
Yeah.
is the balance. So, when you can defend yourself, or you can do some kind of damage to other people, you walk about with a different energy, and you have to know this as a combat veteran. You don't need to show your guns, so to speak, for people to get that feeling. Your energy precedes you, and they know they shouldn't mess with you, sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't go about telling people I do Krav Maga.
Yeah.
That defeats the purpose.
And you're correct, right? And you're also correct though, because there's a different energy, right? If someone so I'm going to use my kids for my example. If someone starts to try to bully my kids are going to look back at them
Exactly.
like, are you
Exactly.
sure? Like, I'm the one you want to bully?
Right.
And then it kind of lets the bully know, like, oh, I haven't gotten that look before. This is different, right? And it is different because if they start to bully a kid and the kid starts to like cry and is all like, please, then that a lot of times that empowers that aggression of that bully, right? Because you said it earlier, right? And Ashley echoed it, right? Trauma is trauma. Oftentimes someone in pain wants others to feel their pain.
Totally.
And in school with kids, that comes about through bullying, right? Then that kid, and I'm going to use my daughter as an example again, right? Lila, that kid. So like Lila is also incredibly empathetic. Like she will stand up for herself. She's also incredibly empathetic. So Lila has the capacity to stand up to a bully and say, hey, you're never going to do this to me again. And very confidently say it to them. And then she also has the ability to go, hey, I noticed you're kind of sitting over here all by yourself. Like you're not really talking to anyone. You're like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? So I agree with you. Like, I think that energy we give off, right? And that feeling, that sense people get as they're around you, right? Because it's it's funny you say like on a good day, you're 5 feet tall, right? So now I know you're the same height as my oldest sister. And it's interesting though, because like you'll get people who are just naturally like, big people, right? And sometimes they're the ones who want to be like, you sure you want to mess with me? And that's when I'm always just like, you have no idea. Like, cool, dude.
Yeah.
Right, you're like yeah.
Sure. I mean,
are you sure?
Or we can just go have a beer and this can end much better for you. Like your choice. Like, how do you want to go? Right. But I think it's interesting that it's all in that presentation of energy, right? You invite people into yoga. You said at ORW Foundation retreats, yoga is optional. You invite them in. They can feel that energy. They can come in. They can get into that harmony in that rhythm with you, with each other, with themselves, and having that energy and that feeling, right? And so, I'm going to go ahead, Ashley, and I'm going to throw out my one NC nugget for the day, which is that weight that we all place on ourselves of am I enough? Am I good enough? Because it's so fun to listen to you talk, Rinell, and it's so fun to listen to Ashley talk. And there's so much energy and so much confidence and so much like just positive, and like you can feel the I want to help. You can feel the like, hey, let me just wrap my healing arms around
That's exactly
you,
right. And that's what they feel, It's like, come here, I'll help you, come here, I'll guide you. That's exactly. And going back to my organization, that's exactly what we do, what we want to do, the same thing. It's for first responders and and veterans, just to offer that hug. Let me just hug you. You'll be okay. I promise you.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. So in finishing out my unseen element, right, that am I good enough question, then I would say where you and Ashley are at in your unseen journey is finding the answer to that question. Am I good enough? Because if it's a self-placed weight, the only person who can get it off of you is you, right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a work in progress. I think it's well, that goes, okay, so that kind of ties into my unseen element. And this is something fun, Rinell, we do throughout each episode that Guy and I, we kind of jot down notes of what we notice are the unseen elements of what we talked about. And so mine for today is when we look fierce, but we're just big babies. And I know that came from when we talked about your dog. You made that little comment, but it was so true to us. And Guy and I are both dog people, and we love our dogs. And that's a sign, I think, of a good dog owner when our dogs are big babies, because they're safe.
Come here. It's sleepy.
And I just love that. We may look fierce, but we're really all big babies.
It's a front. He puts up a front. So, it's like,
Wow. This has been great, Rinell. It's been so fun getting to know you and hearing your journey and sharing your piece with us. And that's huge, to share your energy with us. And
I really appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you so much. It's been incredible. Again, I was nervous. At the beginning, it's like, oh my God, what, do I have anything to offer again?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. So this is where I'm going to invite all our guests, do us a favor, reach down there, hit the like and subscribe, and then drop us a comment. Be like, Rinell, you rock. Or be like, hey, ? Right? Just reach down there, throw us a comment, right? We need your support. We need the likes and subscribes. And then while you're down there, visit the ORW Foundation, right? Our sponsor for this podcast, and learn more about it. Because as we've discussed and as we've all seen, right? Trauma is trauma. Rinell was not a member of any military service, and that's okay. There are spouses out there. There are brothers and sisters out there who have veterans in their families. And guess what? We all need this unseen journey. We all need to go through this as humans. So on behalf of myself, your host for today, Guy, and my co-host,
Ashley,
and our guest today, Rinell, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.